Welcome everyone. This is Mary Vandenplas, Senior Manager of Research and Operations here at Burtch Works. This is part 2 of Burtch Works Executive Leadership Series in partnership with Tim Ressmeyer from Ressmeyer Partners. Today's topic is New Year's career resolutions for analytics and data science professionals. A few quick logistics items before we dive in. Only the presenters will be speaking, so please place your phones and microphones are muted. There will be a short Q&A at the end of the webinar, so I'll be collecting your questions via the chat function on the left side of your screen where you can submit your questions for Tim. If you experience any technical issues, submit those through the chat box as well. Finally, today's session is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel shortly after completion. So if you missed part of it or would like to share it with a colleague, you're welcome to do that. And now I'd like to introduce Tim Ressmeyer, founding partner at Ressmeyer Partners. Tim has put his considerable experience as a quantitative executive to use in his coaching services company. He has previously held leadership positions at Starcom Worldwide, IRI, SPSS IBM, and Mintel. Now, Tim shares his insights with executives and companies around the globe and has partnered with Burtch Works to extend his considerable expertise to our network. Over to you, Tim.
Thank you, Mary. Hey, it's great, everybody, to be on the call with you today. And guess what? I'd like to point out that it's still the new year. No matter, even if it's February, let's still call it the new year. When it comes to resolutions, the date is arbitrary. You can start now. According to Statistic Brain, 25% of people who make resolutions stop trying before the first week is out. And that's really discouraging. Of those who do make resolutions, about 57% felt they either met their resolution or were sometimes successful. Now that's actually pretty encouraging. More than half do succeed with their resolutions. We always seem to focus on those who don't achieve their goals. Let's give praise and be inspired by those who do. And that's exactly what our goal is today, to help you identify those very specific actions you can take to make sure the rest of 2018 doesn't just happen. Instead, take control of it to create the outcomes you want and need to succeed. You can do this. So the topics today are going to be making this the year of you. How do we overcome the distractions that might get in our way? Secondly, making effective resolutions. And we're going to do this in the framework of the 4 C's of leadership. Trends in data science and analytics. Let's put it in the context of those specific resolutions in your areas of interest to make them successful. And finally, as Mary said, we will have some time for Q&A at the end. How can you make this the year of you? We have so many headwinds these days. Sometimes it's hard to know where to begin to bring about change and lead the life that you want to lead. There are lots of things that can get in our way of moving forward with our lives or fulfilling our resolutions. Some are real and some are imagined, or not as big as we make them out to be. And some are, in fact, significant. And we can handle those and still move forward. Society. Hey, there are lots of distractions in our political and economic world. Political situation, just take a look at Washington. Look at the craziness going on there that can distract us. Economic conditions, how long will the bull market continue? We've seen the volatility in the last week. That can be a distraction. Uncertain immigration legislation has a profound impact on our companies. Artificial intelligence, automation, Amazon seemingly taking over the world, funding for startups, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. The list goes on and on for the things that make us worry or wonder about things that are going on around us. It's very important to stay on top of these external factors. Just watch that you don't dwell on them to the point that you become distracted or discouraged when you can't figure it all out. Personally, being a political scientist, I am a news junkie. Working from home, I can easily keep the various cable news stations on a lot. And these are not truly news stations, and they just rehash the same stories and perspectives over and over. To help not get distracted, I've come up with a rule of thumb for myself. If I'm not hearing anything new, turn it off. That mantra has helped me a lot. Social media as well. is intentionally making the effort to make it so addictive you can't let go. It's not just politics, but any of those other areas can draw us in and distract us from our priorities. Be careful. Be aware. Make a change if it's impacting your primary focus. Industry. We saw from the Burtch Works predictions that along with lots of other industry trends, there are a lot of changes in the places where analytics and data science expertise is most valuable. So some of these distractions include tool changes that seem to be happening all the time, new data streams that emerge, corporate consolidation impacts our business climate, corporate relocation, urban versus suburban locations makes a difference for us, employment trends, hiring old versus hiring young, ageism is present out there. We'll talk about some of these specific areas with data analytics in a little bit later, but all these changes can distract you from what you really want to do to keep on track with your career and with your life. I don't know how many conversations I've heard about each of these topics over the years where the energy is all fear-based. It's so hard out there, or everything is going down the tubes. A manufacturing client of mine who supplies product to the CPG industry was devastated a couple of years ago when their major client was bought and merged with others in a corporate consolidation. And they were at a real risk of losing a lot of their revenue. They were mad, and they were scared. It did have an impact on their business. But to prevent it from becoming too much of a distraction, we focused on the opportunity. They realized that too high of a percentage of their revenue came from one customer. So they increased their business development efforts elsewhere. They knew the new owners in the merger couldn't cut their business overnight, so my client continued to deliver quality product and stellar customer service. They also knew this was a corporate decision made thousands of miles away, and they had very solid relationships with their contacts at their customers. So they stayed calm and upped their game. As it turned out, the consolidation didn't go as planned. And very recently, my clients actually expanded their footprint across many of the companies involved in that merger. So rather than viewing everything out there from a woe is me perspective, or going on and on in a loop of fear or worry, be action-oriented and look ahead to the opportunities. Then there are all the personal distractions we deal with. We are human beings, after all. Many people feel uneasy about their current situation, whether at work or in their relationships. Are you feeling stuck, in over your head, don't know how to take the next step? Are you excited with new change, but also wary because things might have gone poorly in the past, and you're fearful that that might happen again? Or you're not fully sure the path you're on is the right one. You can't or don't want to entirely compartmentalize your work and personal lives. Sorry, one does impact the other. Acknowledge them and work to uncover solutions and integrate them into the other parts of your life. I don't like the term work-life balance. I prefer work-life integration. You don't want to pit one against the other. You want to incorporate them while creating boundaries so that each supports the other. Here are some familiar distractions: work, feeling stuck, not advancing, no career path, toxic environment, onboarding into a big new position. Relationships, finding time for someone else, having children, family challenges, illness, aging family members, new kids, empty nest, partner and spouse career goal misalignment. These are some of the things that are real-life factors that can distract us and keep us from moving ahead in the way that we want. I spoke with a client just yesterday morning. She's launched her own analytics consulting business. But some very serious personal issues have surfaced. Her fiancé's college-age son is having severe emotional problems and needed to be hospitalized. Her own daughter suffered a concussion and has weeks of additional tests and monitoring. She's also in the process of helping her aging parents relocate to be closer to her due to health and financial reasons. That's a lot. How do you run your business and take care of others and handle the stress of it all? We all have challenges. This is a hard time for that client. I'm confident she'll get through it both personally and professionally. She's taking those steps through coaching and other sources to set herself up for success during challenging times. These are all legitimate reasons to be overwhelmed. However, you do have control over how you respond to these situations. These things happen. You can move forward. All these thoughts and experiences are normal. People have them every day, and we all go through these cycles of feeling like we're doing great and winning to feeling adrift, frustrated, and uncertain. All of those challenges, society, our industry, and the personal factors are all very real. We decide how we react to them. We have more control than we think. You don't want to be a victim of circumstances. Take control in the new year. Focusing on the business side of things, back when I was leading a research group, the company was always pushing us to do more, a lot more. It seemed like too much. People on the team were complaining and felt it was unrealistic and unattainable. There was this negativity all over. I had a great team at this point, and one of my leaders said, fine, if they want us to hit this crazy revenue goal, we'll do it. And as a result, when we crush that number, they'll send us all to Las Vegas when we exceed that goal. Wow, that's confidence. I took the proposal to my boss. He laughed at the goal we picked. We shook hands on the deal anyway. He agreed to the challenge. My team's resolution was to do amazing work and hit that goal. We crushed it. My boss had to go to others in senior management to actually get approval and funding for our trip, which he did. We had a great time in Vegas. My team could have looked at the goal they gave us as being unfair, unattainable, unrealistic, but instead we took it on as an opportunity, played to our strengths, and won. Same goes for you in your career and next steps. Are you passive and angry, or are you ready to take control of what's next? At this time of year, it's easy to say, I'm making a resolution to do this. But as we saw, so many people don't stick to their resolution. Often they're too aggressive, there's not enough motivation, or the resolutions are too vague. I'd like to suggest a framework for you to use for these resolutions, as well as any aspect of leadership. Rather than the random one-off promises to yourself, having a framework and seeing how resolutions fit into your overall professional development plan helps make them stick, and you're more likely to find success. Over the course of my career in research and analytics leadership and coaching hundreds of leaders across all industries, I've uncovered what I consider to be the four most important components of leadership, the 4 C's. We'll look at each dimension briefly and then apply it to resolutions you can make in the new year that are specifically relevant to data science and analytics. The starting point at the very center of it all is confidence. It starts with you. You decide how to show up in every conversation, meeting, and interaction. The impact of confidence is immeasurable when you look at it in this way. Connecting. It's more than communication. You succeed by being intentional about how you create connections and relationships with everyone above, below, and to the side of you. Competence. You know stuff. You want to apply what you know in new and different ways to remain relevant and have an even larger impact. You want to continue to learn new things, to stay interesting, and to show how valuable you truly are. Culture. You're always creating a culture around yourself. No matter how much you blame a toxic environment for your frustration, you can control the bubble of interactions with which you have immediate contact. You can develop relationships and create connections by exuding the positive energy you desire. Don't give in to negativity. So how do we bring this all to life? The 10 predictions for analytics and data science published by Burtch Works creates a great jumping off place to think about where you can take control of all that lies ahead in your professional growth. We don't have time to examine each one of them, so let's focus on 4. These 4 help to highlight the way the 4 C's can help inform resolutions and make them stick. Through my own experience as a leader and a coach, and many examples of individuals and situations that bring to life these 4 C's in the world of data science and analytics, I'd like to share some of them with you right now. The first C is confidence. Broaden your impact. I hired a senior data scientist to work with me at a digital media company. He was extremely talented, knew very little about marketing and advertising, a key competency of our company. I knew this and knew he could still be successful in his role. We needed an expert who could build models and leverage big data. Along the way, he would learn enough of the business aspects to become more knowledgeable. He was not, however, satisfied to let this happen over time. He intentionally stepped up to truly understand not only our team's work, but as many other aspects of our business and our clients' businesses as well. He knew the power of what he could do with data, and he wanted to have an impact as broadly as possible. As are many in this discipline, he was very much an introvert. It didn't come naturally to initiate these kinds of contacts, but he did it anyway. He came from a top school with impeccable background credentials. He easily could have come in with a know-it-all attitude. But instead, he had the confidence to acknowledge what he didn't know and a willingness to learn and at the same time share his expertise. He was one of the best hires I ever made. Where are you able to celebrate your strengths to give you confidence to have a bigger impact than you're having right now? The second C, connecting. A client of mine was a long-term analytics and research leader who found himself challenged when the company was working with DART to undergo dramatic change. New leadership came in with new reporting structures and expectations. He had been part of a tight group with a specific way of doing things, but now his role expanded. He had to support more groups of the company who admittedly didn't fully understand the value of his work, but they would benefit from what he had to offer. He became frustrated and started to let this frustration impact his work. He was being perceived by others as unapproachable and not a team player. In the coaching engagement, we focused on the value of what he did offer, how he was connecting or failing to connect with others, and the value he could bring by looking at his role differently. We worked on his demeanor as people asked questions of him. Smiling more and listening were helpful first steps. How he handled dumb questions was seen as an opportunity to educate and not just judge others. And it all started with him discovering ways to connect differently. He became more relevant, impactful, and happier. He had a lot to offer, and when he connected in different ways, he discovered the value of what he did and created relevance. Where in your workplace interactions can you intentionally make a change to connect in more effective ways, whether those connections are above you, below you, or peers to the side? Competence. Keep learning. When I moved from a role in a more traditional market research company to a senior analytics role in an advertising and digital media company, it was a real awakening about the need to keep learning and be relevant. It was at the time when digital marketing was really taking off, and virtually every week there was a new data source we had to figure out how to measure and integrate into our analytics. Our clients wanted to make sure we were capturing as much information as possible, and because big data was exploding, there was a lot of data to make sense of. New programming tools were becoming prevalent, such as Python and R. I knew nothing about them. As a senior exec, I didn't have to learn how to code, but I was definitely at a disadvantage not knowing them, and I had to learn and understand them as much as possible to be able to effectively lead my team. During this time, I was approached by people from the same traditional market research firms I had experience with who were looking for jobs. I very quickly addressed their assumptions that data is data, and as long as I know SAS, I'll be fine. The world had changed. I encouraged them to use their passion for learning that had gotten them to this point in their careers to take the opportunity to dig into the new data sources and tools that would be necessary in this new era. What would you like to learn to help set yourself up for success in the next step of your career. Culture, connecting the dots. A mid-level banking industry client with an analytics focus began working with me because of a desire to position himself for promotion and advancement. He had hit some roadblocks recently, and those above him were not entirely sure of his executive path any longer. His analytic skills were very valuable in his current role, and he had relied heavily on this skill set to rise through the ranks within his department. He started to hit these barriers for advancement because he was in the weeds and the jargon too often. He couldn't effectively articulate the value of what he did outside of his narrow group. If asked, people around him would say he created a culture of arrogance because he knew his stuff and didn't understand why others couldn't see the value. He often offended people and caused rift because of an unwillingness to look at his own behavior. His deep knowledge of analytics was his comfort zone. For him to succeed at a higher level in the company, he had to have the confidence to step out of the familiar, knowing he had other skills to offer as well, and his analytic skills were transferable to other parts of the company. That's where the coaching and self-awareness came in. He had to shift the way in which he interacted with his team and throughout the company. Through some intense coaching, we worked on his willingness to delegate more tasks to his team, to communicate to his peers in other groups in a way that was not condescending, to help them understand the value of what he offered, and finally to confidently articulate to senior management his vision for how his view of analytics could bring value to the company at a higher level. He created his own culture of sharing, innovation, and professionalism that dramatically impacted those around him and his success. Where are you able to create or contribute to a culture that plays to your strengths and helps you create the environment where you can be successful? All right, it's February, but it's not too late to set resolutions. You can use the framework of the 4 C's to find those places where you can make changes to help you move forward. Coaching is all about taking action and moving forward, so we have some homework. There's always homework. First, write a resolution for each of the 4 C's: confidence, connecting, competence, and culture. Where in each of those can you write a resolution? Secondly, when will you start acting on that goal? We all know that SMART goals have to have the time element in them. We can all wish for something to happen, but hope isn't a strategy. When will you start acting on that goal? Number 3, how will you know when you've achieved it? So often the resolutions or goals can be very vague. I'm going to start a job search, or I'm going to do a better job, or whatever. You got to be real specific. What's the metric to measure the success of the resolution that you're setting out? How will you know you've achieved it? Finally, coaching is also about accountability. Tell someone your 4 resolutions. Tell them what success looks like, and ask them to check in with you to see if you're on track. When you know that somebody's going to ask you if you're doing it, it makes a huge difference and helps get success. So thank you for the time spent today. I invite you to reach out to me for a variety of personal, one-on-one, and team and leadership coaching opportunities. My contact information is right here. And at this point, I will turn it back over to Mary.
Thank you very much, Tim. Of course, if you're looking to add to your predictive analytics or data science staff, we'd be happy to speak with you and do some brainstorming about what you might have planned in terms of hiring this year. We offer both contingency and retained services, from entry-level analysts and data scientists all the way up to Chief Analytics Officer searches. Feel free to send us an email at info@burtchworks.com if you want to chat. You can also explore new opportunities or post your quantitative opportunity on our niche job board, which is trafficked by thousands of professionals in analytics, data science, marketing research, and much more. Aside from searches we're engaged on, we've recently opened up our job board to all of our clients. So if you're just looking for a new targeted place to post your ads, definitely get in touch with us. We offer several options depending on how many roles you'd like to post. And coming up soon is our first Burtch Works study of 2018 with salaries, demographic data, and hiring market trends for data science. And that will be coming out at the end of April, so keep an eye out for that. And now what you've all been looking forward to, a chance to have Tim answer some of your questions. Feel free if you have any more questions to submit them through the chat, and time permitting we'll do our best to get to them all. Tim, first question. So for professionals at different levels, how relevant are the 4 C's? So how would you kind of interpret them for entry-level professionals and executive-level professionals?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for that, Mary. That's a great question. What I like about the 4 C's is it really does work at any level. So if you're new into the industry, if you're just starting out your career, thinking about how you show up in situations, your confidence and your ability to connect with others, what you do know, what you bring to the table, and finally that notion of whether you're managing people or not, you're still creating a culture around yourself. So that can set you up for success early on in your career by showing up as a professional when you think about those 4 dimensions. For those who are at senior levels and further along in their career, it's the same sort of thing. How does confidence show up as you lead a team, or you're moving into a higher level role as an executive? How do you show up in the C-suite? That's where that confidence comes in as well. It can be really scary to do that. There's often not a lot of training that helps people make those jumps at the higher levels. And there again, so the confidence as well as how do I relate to people now differently, that I'm sitting at the big table now. How do I want to make sure that I'm able to have those conversations in a way that make it successful? And again, when you're the leader of a company or at the higher in the pyramid, you are able to establish a culture that can impact the entire company and your clients. And you have it's a responsibility. So short answer, they apply at all levels. And you can adapt them to wherever you are in your career.
All right, thank you. So next question. A lot of industry challenges that you talked about aren't necessarily under our own control. So how do you suggest kind of rolling with the punches when there's a huge industry change?
Yeah, that's great. We can't control those things outside. And so a lot of it is how you manage your own energy and how you relate to these things that are happening. Do you get really discouraged? Do you get fearful? Do you just gripe about things all the time? You can control your reaction. So where's the opportunity? Hey, if there is a change out there, it's like the client example that I gave, who due to consolidation, they thought they were tanked, and they looked at it differently. Saw what can we do now? So they didn't succumb to the fear and the difficulty. They started to look themselves at what are the resources I have in myself to overcome this. And we talk about what support we have in those difficult situations, what resources we have. There's so much that we all have overcome in our lives, that personally and professionally, that we can tap into those things that have supported us in the past. When things look very difficult in the future, we realize, wow, I've handled stuff before. It hasn't killed me. I can do this again. So that happens with those external forces as well. There's always stuff happening out there. How do I not give in to it and instead just look for the opportunities of how I can keep moving forward, knowing I've done it in the past?
All right, thank you. And based on this year's trends, what are some resolutions you would suggest?
I'd say keep learning. There's just so much change out there. So I would say find some specific areas that you're good at already and you want to expand your impact. I'm a big believer in leveraging your strengths. And so what can you do in order to stay current on those trends. I also think that so many of the companies that we have are just victims of their own negativity and cultures of gossip or anger. I'd say make a resolution to be more positive every day. Cut the griping around the water cooler, stop the bad mouthing of people, and start to look at how can I be the professional that I would want to work with by being more positive and creating a culture of positivity around me.
All right. So I have to throw this question in. It comes from Linda Burtch here at Burtch Works. And she's asking something that we actually get a lot here from our busy working professionals. And so how do you fit in learning with your crazy schedule, family, work, travel, and other obligations?
Yeah, it's truly a challenge. And everyone has to find their own rhythm for that. Obviously, there's so much you can learn on podcasts, and whether you're while you're working out or on the train, listening to podcasts can be helpful. I'm a big believer in setting realistic expectations for yourself. Whether it's reading a book a month on something, or subscribing to not all the dozens of alerts and news streams or industry content things out there, but just really focusing on one or two that are aligned with what you want to do next. So it's there's no easy answer, and it's a personal discipline, but make it your own. I see these experts all the time. They read a book a week, and it's like, oh my gosh, I should read a book a week. There's no way. I just can't do it, and I'm not motivated to do it. So baby steps. Pull a piece off of something that you do want to learn, and you can fit it into your schedule, and then just make that commitment. And like I mentioned at the end is the accountability piece. Who's going to hold you accountable for that? A team member, a partner, a family member. Somebody says, hey, did you read your book this month? Ask somebody to ask you that question. You're more likely to succeed.
All right, and so I think we have time for just one more question here. So what would you say are the most important things when it comes to whether or not a resolution is going to be successful?
Good one. Most important thing. I think that it's something that you are really motivated to do, that there's either pain around it, but even more positively is, what will this do for me? I'm a big believer in watching the language around, I should do this, I have to do this, I ought to do this, I need to do this. Those are all fear-based values, and they have an implicit or else associated with them. If I don't read all those books, I'm going to not measure up, or I'm going to be dumb, or whatever. Instead, shift your mindset to make those resolutions stick to positive and value-based decisions. I want to do this. I choose to do this. It sounds like just a word nuance, but it really makes a difference. I want to read a book a month because I know that in the end it will accomplish this for me. I want to listen to podcasts when I'm working out because I will learn things in these areas that will help my career. So to make them stick, make them positive-based, not fear-based. I want to, or I choose to.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate everyone who submitted questions today. That's all the time we have. Thank you, Tim, for presenting with us, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.